Hey, what's shaking, everybody? Luke Dancy, joined by the one and only Ryan Schlutz, and we are here today to talk all about his brand new destructive book test, Random Happenings.
hmm
What's up, buddy? How we doing?
Hey, Luke, thanks for having me on. Yeah, you got it. It's the first destructive book test, I guess, right? So
Bam.
I never heard of one. That's pretty cool.
So, with that said, for those that haven't had a chance to watch the trailer yet, we're going to link everybody to the trailer as well to watch a full performance because there is one on the trailer, which is great. In a
Okay.
nutshell, Ryan, what is Random Happenings if people haven't seen it just yet?
Yep. So it can start off feeling like a book test. Obviously, the start the book, and then you could talk about different things about it. But where it deviates quickly is to make the selection very fair. You rip the cover off, and then you separate the pages from the glue, and the spectator can help you. They can choose any page they want, and they can choose either side. But then you also rip it up into pieces, and then they can pick any of those pieces, find different words, more than one, obviously, and then they can choose one at their free will, and then basically at that point you can predict what the free chosen word was. So that's like the ad copy in a nutshell. So, and the cool thing is it does completely reset, even though it seems very destructive. The way it's routine and put together is so that everything goes back together and you can do it again. So that's the nice part about the routine.
Nice. That was one of my questions was the reset because as we're going to see as the video continues to play. And again, you guys
Yep.
can watch the full trailer and what he's doing right now on the trailer for this product. So check it out if you want to hear it,
Mhm.
see it. The reset, though, is it something that will take a few minutes, a couple minutes, a minute? Like what kind of reset time is there? Because as people see this, you're going to
Yeah,
see it kind of gets a little messy.
it's definitely a performer's piece, so it's about, I would say, 10 minutes to really reset, and
Okay.
then there's a dry time. So it's, I mean, 10 to 20 minutes really between, depends on a lot of factors, but that's roughly what it is. It's not going to be like 30-second reset. This is definitely, you're performing this obviously in different venues, that's okay, right? Or have two books ready to go, and then you that way. Usually, how I do it is I have two books, and I have one prepared, and then and basically I just cycle through it. So I have, after I do one performance, I reset that one, and while that one's drying, and then I grab the next one, and then just keep doing that, all rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. That way you can do multiple performances in a night without having to worry about any kind of reset time.
Cool.
So,
All right.
but yeah.
And as we're also going to see, as things continue to go on here, you're going to see guys that you're going to start to rip things up. You're going to tear stuff up as well. How many times with the package, with what you get, because you do receive everything you need to perform this right away.
Mhm.
How many times can you perform this once you've purchased it and you have what you need to start doing random happenings?
Yeah, so the book comes with, you can basically anywhere, 100, 120 extra performances you can get through. But I'd say about 120 is what you can actually go through. I think
Mhm.
they're advertising 100, but that's assuming you don't use any of the main book's pages. So basically, you get enough pages for one complete book, and then you get an extra 100 pages. So, and you can see in performance right now is every performance rips at least one page. So you're
Mhm.
always going to lose one page per performance. So, but if you're like performing once a week, that's gonna be 2 years worth of performances, right? Which is, or so on and so forth. Depends on how often you're performing. But yeah.
Okay. And it looks like you just sped up there. Were you performing in, in super speed?
Yep. Yeah, I've been working on a new supersonic motion. I don't know, like, can just go real quick. I don't know. It's a new style of performing. I know actually what happened there was they didn't want to cut, but I only had, this is the loveliness of COVID, right? We both had COVID in this video, so we felt fine being next to each other. So then I only had one chance to do one take because she basically was just the only spectator I could get in the time I need to get this filmed. So I had one take to get this right, and she just happened to drop all the pieces instead of keeping one, which is just an honest mistake. Now in performance, I just make a joke. She picks it up, but it just slows down the trailer. So really, all they did with there was just speed it up, so that way people aren't just waiting for her to pick up pieces and that kind of stuff. Now on a stage, that's fine. It's funny. You have a moment to make
Oh,
a
yeah.
joke.
Right.
Oh, what the heck? But those kind of things play better live, not like on a trailer. So yeah.
Yeah. I'm just
But they
picking
were
on you.
they were
Yeah.
yeah. But actually, yeah, I know. I know. I love it too. I think it's cool on Abstract's part because I said just cut it out, but then they said
Yeah.
no, we don't want to cut. We want to make sure we have a clean trailer. So I think that's good for them that they just wanted to make sure people know that everything was there. So
Yeah. Um, Now, when it comes to this, obviously you're going to go through a page of performance, at least
Yeah.
one. I know one of the things we were talking about before this is, and one question that we have a feeling is going to come up if it hasn't already,
Hmm.
is the fact of refills. So why don't we just
Yep.
jump through that hoop real quick? Because we know people want to know the answer to that one too. So
Yeah, I think right now, I think the idea is there is no refills for this. So you get your 100 performances, and then you would have to rebuy it. But I think at that point, the price point is pretty darn affordable. Most book tests go for hundreds of dollars sometimes. So I feel like it's priced cheap enough where it's okay. If you're going through that many performances, then it's definitely worth the investment. So you would just have to rebuy it at that point after you get through them all. But I prefer. I'm more a hobbyist performer. I'm still on my first 100 pages. I haven't even come close to it. So I might have another one at the same convention. So that might be another 2 or 3 maybe pages. But the nice part is like this is super easy to practice. Like you don't really need to. You can almost just scan the page and practice with scan pages. You don't even have to use your own book because like the idea is like once you know the method and how everything works, it's all self-contained. This is like the easiest trick in the world to perform. Like honestly, I could hand someone the book, give them like 5 seconds of instruction, they could perform it. It's that easy. You know what I mean? Like
cool.
anyways. But yeah. So to your point, gotta buy another one.
Okay.
So
Okay. Yeah, and like you said, I mean the price point's there. And like the
yeah,
mother of all book test is like in the hundreds of dollars.
yeah,
So I mean this is well below that. So yeah. And you get a ton of pages, which is great.
yeah. 100 sounds like it doesn't sound like a lot, but if you really think about it, that's a lot.
Oh
So
yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah, that's enough to last for if you're pouring twice a week, this will last you a year. If you're pouring once a week, they'll last you a couple of years. So yeah, it just depends
Yeah.
on what you're doing. So
Another question that's started to pop up is it the same word every time? That's just something
yeah.
that you see it in the trailer. We saw it on Penn and Teller. We're going to show some footage from that too. But is it the same word every time?
It is one of 2 words. It
Okay.
just happens. I don't know why brainstorm just a more popular word apparently. So it's all the other word is conversations. That's the other word it could be.
Okay.
So but they always have a selection. So when they rip the pages up and they have a piece, they're always going to see both words. It's just it's designed to be so they can see both words. So depending on your performance style, you could be like, hey, I want you to get like 1 or 2 words. Get one. Get another one. So now you can almost force them to make sure they see both words,
Mm-hmm.
and now you can have them think about both in their head. Because on this Penn and Teller, I think one thing that I think he would have definitely fooled them if he would have made a bigger deal about saying, "Hey, you could have switched it to another word," and
Yeah.
then she could have been yes, and then Penn would have been like, "Oh." So I think they implied that there's just one word, which that's not the case. There's definitely more than one, but you can't control what they ultimately choose, right? That part is just up to the spectator.
Mm-hmm. And the performance that we're watching now is who? I'd like you to also tell the guys who this is, because obviously it's not you. Who is this
No,
doing your trick on TV?
who says this is not me? Who says this is not? I mean, I think we looked very similar, so we're both studly.
It's the hair. It's the
No,
hair.
this is my buddy. This is my buddy Noah Sony. So he's an awesome magician. We met, through magic conventions. He's a really charming, great performer, like really charismatic. Which I love his style. But he asked me to do it on Fullest, and I was like, heck yeah, man. I think they like see what not to do. I think funny story. He told me that they had trouble with the reason it's not random happenings on this because they just refused to clear. They thought it was copyright protected. They just didn't want to clear it,
Mm-hmm.
so they made a new name. But they so he didn't have the book going onto the show. So he was just waiting, and maybe like 10 minutes prior to the show, they handed him the book already pre-glued, but they didn't know how to do it correctly. So they like basically like bound it, which is fine for the show because it's a one-off performance. But obviously that's why he was like, oh Jesus, what the heck? It shouldn't be that hard. But someone else does it for you. They don't know better. Sorry, Siri picked me up for a second there. But Noah's a great guy though. I think he asked me to do it, and I was like, heck yeah, man. Of course, I'd be honored for you to do this on the show. I think that'd be incredible.
Nice.
So,
A basic question, because we're watching someone do it on TV. Are TV rights included? If someone saw this and also wanted to do it on like, excuse me, like a Got Talent show or something else, are they able to do this on TV?
1000%. I don't believe in that whole TV rights thing. That's not my thing. So yeah, if you guys buy the trick from me, you're more than welcome to do it anywhere you want. Go for it. So
All right.
yeah.
Very good.
No,
And as
good
we're
question
watching
though.
Noah do this too, it's worth noting that just how easy this is, which is great because you could focus so much on the presentation, which what this is really all about.
Yeah.
I know one of the things I saw on YouTube was people saying that the procedure could feel a little long, and that's something I'd like to address too. Is that you don't have to do it the way that you're seeing Ryan do it or Noah do it. You could do this in a much quicker pace. You could literally just rip stuff
Yes.
up, go through it,
Yep.
and get to the word real quick. And I'd like Ryan to kind of address that too, because it was something I've seen and I've read, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on
Mhm.
that too.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen people do this. I mean, that's the cool thing about it's set up to be anything you want. You can
Mhm.
literally just have them rip out one page out of the book instead of have ripping the whole book up. So
Right,
already you're saving time,
right.
and you can just have them just rip a piece out of the book. Rip a piece off the page. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? So that's rip a page, rip a piece, and now you're done. Now you're down to a section. You know what I mean? So and that would also work. So if you want to speed it up, you very well could. Now I do think Magic should have a process, a procedure, something that makes it entertaining, which
Yep.
is what he's doing, and I think that's what the process is. I think just, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I believe in the too perfect and it's just too direct. Like, think of a word, Apple. Well, yeah, it's cool, but there's no entertainment to it, right? So it's like, I think this whole thing leading up to it, it really sells the impossibility of it. Wow, it could be any page. Wow, she ripped it up. It could be one of the two sides. It could, oh man, what was the top? What were the words at the top? The words at the bottom? It just gets to the point where it feels like it could have been anything, you know? So, and the nice part is, I saw one of those YouTube comments on his video too. It was like, is it the same page repeated over and over again? And no, it's not. So it isn't the same page. Um, I I was going to write a whole book of unique pages, but I chose not to. So it's about 15 pages, I think,
Mhm.
that are unique. So that way, every time they're looking near, they're always seeing different styles, different word placement. So it won't look like the exact same page every
Okay,
single time.
cool.
So, which I thought for me was important because I want to make sure that a casual glance at the book, it felt like a normal book. And that's one thing I wanted to stress when I made this thing. So,
Cool.
and it took a long time because I made it by hand at first, and it was painful.
Man.
So yeah, because as you try to write a book test, and then based on some of the methods, it's very painful to write a book test. It's the most mind-numbing thing ever, and because of how this method works, every decimal, every period, every space, it's so crucial to this trick that it just to get it right took me. I mean, it took me 2 years to write it, and that's
Oh
not
my
a joke.
God.
So because I just
Wow.
was so tedious to do it.
And speaking of that, I'm really curious. There's a lot of people just like me know you for the cards, playing card
Mhm.
magic, and it's great. I mean, your stuff is fooling, and it's great. And if you guys have not checked out Ryan's False Anchors books and his work, you definitely should because it is amazing. If you want a good peek at it, actually check out his at the table lecture that I hosted. It's
Mm,
packed full of good stuff.
that's a good. That's one of my
Um,
most recommended ones. It's a good sampling of tricks.
oh yeah, oh yeah. And I was fooled at least once on there, and that's the truth. Um, but what
Fair
made
enough.
you go from that, being such a card guy, to jumping into minimalism and kind of dabbling a little bit with something like a book test? Because it is such a different thing, and even the methods here are
Mhm,
much different than obviously card magic. So, how did you
mhm.
get from this to that? I guess.
I mean, they are both paper based, so that does help. It's adjacent.
Sure.
I find it adjacent. So there's multiple. Yeah, I feel like it's almost the same thing. It's just you notice how I handle a non card trick. I handle it as if it's playing cards.
True. And this is a good
mix,
point. Yeah.
mix it up, shuffle it up, take
Shuffle it up.
one, take one. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, is it not a card trick though? I mean, I'm pulling the wool over your guys' eyes right now, thinking this is not a card trick. No, but I mean, how I came up with it because I know I am known for like the cards.
Yep.
I had this flash the new Kickstarter deck. You just plug. Yeah, 5 days. 5 days. So I need it to have more like stage
Yeah.
tricks, something that plays a little bit bigger. And I don't know. I'm not a guy who can sell card tricks like big. I have a couple now, but I needed something just a little bit different than card
Mhm.
tricks, right? So the book test, it didn't start off the way it is now. It was a much longer routine where I basically, I I had a clever way to force a page number, right? I had a clever way of doing that. So I was doing my own version of Pegasus page where one page is missing from a book. There was like, it ended up inside of a balloon. It was a big ordeal, right? But then I thought it'd be something, but it ended up not really going anywhere. But one of the methods in there was just them ripping the single page. So I had a clever way to switch a real page for this random happenings page, so they could rip it up and do the method. So then I was like, man, I should just, this is a cool method. They could just take this page, rip it up, get a word. I should just go ahead and write a whole book of this. That way they can just take any page. I don't have to do a switch of a page, right? And that's basically that was at the start of it, right? So that was the idea. And then I just kind of told someone like, I totally could do it. And they're like, I don't know if it will work. When someone tells me something won't work, then I want to prove them wrong. So then I was like, no, it will work. I guarantee it. And then I just painfully made this. I got it to work. And I think I did it somewhere first. I know I did it. I had a show I was doing somewhere where I had to have a stage up piece and a stand up piece. And I just, honestly, I went all in on this thing. My show was based on this routine. So I just went in and said, this is it. I'm doing it. So yeah, it worked out though. So, yeah. But yeah, that's kind of how it started. I just needed something more place bigger.
So does that mean that there is more Ryan Schlutz other stuff coming out? Does that kind of what we're hinting at here, or?
Yeah. I think so. I mean, I dabbled in the app magic because that was different, right? That was did the app, my locked and loaded, so that was a little bit different. And then now I had this book test. I do have some other like non-card tricks. Like I'm working on a new wearable trick. I don't know when it'll be ready. That's the thing. I don't rush anything. Like once I feel like it's done, I could just teach someone with ease and it's just all the details are hammered out. That's usually when it gets put out. But when it's in like even that book test, it took a while to get to the point where I was like, yep, this is easy now. This is worth putting out. So, I mean, it was years in the making. Honestly, it was. I know every magician says that, but it truly was, But now even this wearable idea I'm working on now, it's just not ready. It's a cool idea. It may turn into something. It may not turn into something. And I have like 4 or 5 other ideas just like that, where they're all at the stage now where they're like, it could make it or it could just flop. I don't know which one it's going to be. So we'll see.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So a generic question that I like to ask from time to time. I don't like to do it every time because sometimes the convo is so head deep. It's just so head first is what I meant.
Okay.
It gets so deep into like the topic at hand. But in general, with your creativity with stuff, I would love to hear quickly, like, how do you look at a trick? Do you look at the trick and figure out a method later? Do you come up with an idea after you have methods? You've got methods in your head. Like, this is a time I'd love to get inside your head a little bit, just in general about your magic, because it's good for people to get to know you better. But also, creativity is a very hot topic, as you know. And so, like, what kind of works for you? How do you play that game when it comes to creating your own magic?
Yeah, I typically, I'm a find a cool method first kind of guy, and then find a use for the method. That's typically how I work, right? Okay. I think this routine in particular, random happenings, the book test, I'm pointing at this off stage. I got it right here. Whoa! So with this trick, I had this vision where I just threw a book in the audience, and then they just ripped out a page, and then they ripped it into pieces, and then they just thought of a word. I don't know why. That was the idea. So it's one of those rare times for me where that's how I started. So I started with an image I wanted to create. I wanted to create this freedom where they just rip any page out, and then they can just rip it to pieces, take one piece, and then think of a word. So that's how it started. And then it came to, well, how could you do that, right? That's where it kind of, so that was the kernel. But the nice part is, like, and this is where I tell people who want to be creative. I think everyone's creative. I think the one difference is you really got to be super restrictive. So with that example, okay, well, how could I achieve that? Like, I have to toss it out. So having those very tight guidelines, then it forces me to find that very specific method. It can't be anything else. You know what I mean? Like, so it has to. So my whole point is like to be more creative, you have to set yourself limitations. Otherwise, you're just never going to come up with the really creative ideas. Because if you leave it a very open book, then the easiest ideas that anyone's going to think of are always going to be the path you take because it's just easy to go that way, right? Whereas this, if you have trust me, sometimes you're going to hit a wall where you're like, oh man, I just want to give in and like retreat back and change it. No, you have to just you got to just pause it and then until you figure out that one more step. You know what I mean? A lot of tricks can die there and just be like, nope, not possible. Or 5 years later, talking to a friend, having a drink at a bar, and all of a sudden you're like, I gotta go.
Yeah, the light bulb moment, dude. There it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I've been at the gym one time, just curling some weights, benching, and I was like, and I just ran. I had to go with my phone and like start jotting down. And I was like, I didn't care what I was doing. Sometimes the idea just hits you. You got to go.
Yeah.
But
yeah. I missed it earlier. If you could actually hold up the book again, the packaging is beautiful. It's worth noting. I mean,
yeah, so that's get the light in the background. But yeah, so that's that. And then you got obviously the falsing of branding. And then nice, Abstract did a good job with all the branding of their stuff too. So you got Abstract and Ryan Schlutz and all that good stuff. So yeah, looks great. I really do love the packaging. And then even inside, like it just comes together really well. Everything's put together nicely and it looks good. And then another thing to mention is I did, had this out on my website for a little bit before this release, and it was just one book cover, random happenings. This kind of book cover looks similar to this front. But with Abstract, it's like, hey, it'd be really cool to put out a second cover. So now you actually get 2 different covers with the trick as well. So that's something different and unique to people who've seen me do it before. So with this, at least you're getting a little bit different. And also they shrunk the size of the book. So that way, I think, I haven't tested it, but it's a little bit smaller where you can handle the book in one hand a lot better than the one I have was a little bit bigger. So it's just little details like that made this a little bit different from the first time I put this out. I had like a 50 book run, so it was a very small amount I put out before this. But yeah, so that's definitely some cool little changes.
Cool.
Actually, I'll show you right here.
Yeah, so I was hoping you would actually. I was going to ask if you would maybe have that there.
Yep, I have it right here. So here's cover 1 and cover 2. So you have random happenings, and then you have ring and success, and it says a guide to finding a better you. So you have a kind of a self-help, and then of course you have the remarkable stories of coincidence and beating the odds. So yeah, this is just a fun. I do like this is Julia Bradburn, so that's like my alter ego. And then with this one in this I always talk about this girl named Laura Bunkston. So I wanted a male name, so I just called this one Adam Bunkston. I'm just like, I don't know. When you're making up fake people, you just got to go with your gut. But the cool thing is on the back of the covers, this is always a cool little thing, is Fraternal Bonds actually a card trick of mine. So it looks like 5-star by Fraternal Bonds. But it just looks like a typical book cover. It looks like, it's been like, here's some like a synopsis and some reviews and stuff. But really, for those who read it carefully, it's actually one of my card tricks that you can learn. So see, even though it's a book test, I still snuck a card trick in there.
So wait a second. If they read the back cover, they're learning a card trick by reading the back cover?
Yeah, if you read the back cover, it's actually a card trick. So,
there you go. I didn't even know that.
Verbatim.
Okay. All right.
Like even like it's like kind of hard to see it, but it said, it's like even written like quotes and stuff. But this is just
that's funny.
Yeah, have a spectator shuffle the deck, and then it goes into different example, and then literally it will literally teach you a card trick. It's fun. Totally, it's a really good card trick. Actually, a really good one. So yeah, it's one of my favorite shuffle deck tricks to do.
That is too funny, man. I was going to ask.
I mean, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
No. Please go ahead. Go.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying it's one of those things where I'm like, no one, because in your hand this book at the people to look at it. People are just doing no one. I just realized I've done this enough time. No one reads anything. They're just like random happenings, and they look at the back, and it just feels like a typical book cover. And they're like, "Oh, the spectacle, okay, cool." And they open it up, and that's the nice part is they go open it, they can casually flip through it, and all that good stuff. There's nothing to really see, and then I usually take it back from them, and then I kind of go through some performance tips, whatever. The performance on the video, like I said, is very short because. I wanted to keep it as succinct as possible, but obviously for people who perform more than I do can really sell us. Like Noah obviously did it on Full Us, which you can see how big you can play this thing if you really wanted to play it big.
Yeah.
So, or how small you want. I have a friend who does it. They do it as a tossed out book test. So instead of doing like tossed out deck, they'll just have people like toss it out. They have people look at. I think each person take a page. Each person has a word, I think, and then they end up just they just name different words, and of course everyone sits down. So I forget. I don't know how they structured it, but they literally are doing it as a tossed out book test, which is interesting to say the least. So
that's cool.
People, everyone has their own take on things, which is really cool.
Yep. And I love. I'm guessing it was Noah's idea on the full list where the word ended up being in the Sharpie that she was gonna write the word with. Yeah, that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, that's a cool concept. Yeah, you could do it. I think, but I don't know if you'll get mad at me for saying, but I think the original method for that was like some kind of super double-ended Sharpie thing, but that wasn't on the show. It just ended up being a slightly different thing. But that was a clever idea. I think the one thing you did with the whole writing thing was cool because you're right. Like, it's a dried out marker. You can tell right away by the first letter because it's a C for conversations or it's a B. So it's either they have a straight line or they have a curve. So from the very first thing you say, hey, write nice and big, you're going to know right off the bat, like, oh, it's dried out. Oh, hold on a second. Let me give you, and now you can either switch markers or use the marker they have. So it's just really clever thinking on his part. So yeah, he did come up with that idea.
Nice. Okay, cool. Yeah, I was curious because I saw that and I'm like, man, that's smart. That makes a lot of sense. So
yeah. The two, I mean, my way, it's a paper out, system, but people have seen kind of, I just teach a very simple 2-way out thing, which it looks really clean. I've seen people who do like real minimalism, unlike me, and just people who really do it. They have really clever ways of like having both words, and then they don't use the double L's. They have ways of wording it nicer. And so there's obviously, if you guys are more into that realm, I'm sure you're going to come up with a million ways to, conclude it. But if you're like me and want super simple, super easy, then the way I usually do it is pretty much how you're always going to see me do it. So it's just, end of the day, I'm just about having fun, keeping it lively. It's just how I perform. So.
Yes, it's true. I will admit that I've seen you in action performing, and you're a lot of fun when you're in go mode.
Go mode. Yeah, you get me. That's the problem. You don't want to turn me on because there is no off switch. I'm just like, even I get sick of hearing myself talk after an hour. I'm like, Jesus, someone make me drink more beer. It's like a stop.
Well, cheers to that. And we are about to hit the 30-minute mark. So if you really are tired of hearing yourself, then I can start to
I'm just meant in general. Yeah. I mean, I'm always here for this, guys. I love this stuff. I do this for fun, obviously. So I love magic. I love the community. In the day, this is why I'm here doing this stuff. So
how about one last nugget of info from you before you go?
Sure.
Is that cool?
Yeah. Cool. I mean, there's no rush. I mean, you got a couple more questions. Don't worry. Okay. So whatever you want.
This is what I'd love to end up on, though, because it's something that Ryan and I are buddies on and off of here. We're friends. We're buddies. And one thing that I've always liked to get personal with my friends and to share with other magicians is when it comes to creating magic, maybe just one or two quick tips for people that not just creating and inventing, but wanting to release something to the market. I see more and more young people that are wanting to rush stuff to the market, either because they think it's going to make them famous, magic famous, or maybe they think they're going to get rich, selling magic tricks. You keep releasing stuff, not only products, cards, and other things too, but maybe one little bit of advice for people that are thinking about or wanting to release magic products on the market from Ryan Schlutz. What would you say to them?
I think, one thing I've learned is from the early releasing days to now is just make something that you're super passionate about and that you would love, and you would create it regardless if anyone would buy it. If no one bought it, you would still be happy that you created it and put it out there for someone to find. I think that's probably the biggest tip, and that's something I do now, where I literally create things, and it's awesome. I mean, I would be sad no one bought it, but at the same time, that wasn't the motive. That's not the motivation for me. The motivation is I just want to create the best possible product. And that's why I started releasing less and less with big companies and more with my own little private things. That way I could just do everything exactly the way I want it. I mean, it's just some of the motivations, but But if you want to, like, I know it's great. I mean, for me, probably Magic Famous was one of my driving motivations in the beginning. Definitely not money. I'll tell you that much right now. So, but Magic, come on.
Yeah.
So with Magic companies, I think it's, I mean, they're all like I think find a company that kind of represents your style, like, Murphy's Penguin, Vanishing, Illusionist. Like, I don't, each one has a certain, I would say, audience that they're catering towards, right?
Yeah.
So figure out who your audience is, and then that's this, the genre of the movie that people love. That's what you want to kind of get behind. You know what I mean? So, like, you're never going to see me probably release a illusionist trick. It's just not the audience that my Magic is geared towards, right? But with like Murphy's and like, Abstract and Vanishing, these guys, each one of these guys probably has some aspect that will align with one of my tricks. So,
Yeah.
So if you want to put it outside, you want to put things out there. I think the hardest part is how do you get discovered, right? I mean, conventions is huge. Obviously, if you can go to conventions once they start back up, that's obviously a nice way to do it. Because if you're doing the trick, trust me, the convention will let those guys know that you have an awesome trick, right? There's 1,000 times where I went, hey, Luke, or hey, whoever, like, check, have you seen so-and-so's trick? It just gets around. That's one of the easiest ways to get found. And then if you can't go to conventions, you know what? I mean, I'm not a huge social media guy, but how many times you guys seen a trick on Instagram or Facebook and you shared it? Well, that could be you. So if you have something that people are sharing, well, guess what? It's only a matter of time for that video gets shared to one of those producers, and they are reaching out to you to put it out. So if that's your big concern, just make awesome stuff and people will find you. That's pretty much what I found out.
Well said.
So,
well said.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're right. If it's good, the people will come.
Yeah.
Word will get
out. Simple
We're a very small community. You know that. We're a very small community. So word spreads quick.
Yeah.
Real quick.
Yeah. And I love, and then, I don't know. I find, and for me personally, branding myself lately to my like false anchors, branding to me has been the big thing. And now it's no longer Ryan Schlutz, it's now false anchors. And now I have like a certain type of, quality and a certain type of feel to the brand that I like to achieve. So I'm obviously now thinking through that lens. So when I put things out now, I have a different way than in the past. But fast is more of like, it was more less focused on the brand, more focused on just cool stuff that I came up with, right? Where now it's more like branded. So I have a whole different way of approaching it today, but that's something, like I said, you learn as you go. So.
Yep. Well said. Well said. Well, guys, if you are interested in picking up Ryan's latest release, you see it right over here. Random Happenings, the destructive book test. Destructive.
The only kind. The best kind.
Yes. It is available from magic shops worldwide. Pick it up today. You will not be sorry. And if you have any other questions about this, which hopefully we covered most of them, there wasn't too much extra to tell you about this one because it's pretty straightforward. Pretty much works by itself. You just have to show up and make it look good, and everything else kind of works for you. So,
it's one of those. It's one of those. I would say it's one of those old reliables. Once you obviously you put it together, it sits in your bag, and when you're ready to do it, it's like there's nothing to remember. It just works. So that's the nice part about it. It just works.
Yep.
Which is my kind of style of magic. I don't want to overthink it too much. So.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, there you go, guys. Hope this helped you out with Random Happenings. We did our best to give you all the info. If you got any other questions, though, that we might have missed something, drop it in the comments. I'm always looking out for you guys. And if I don't know something, I'll always reach out to Ryan and try to get the info for you, too. So that's it for now. Hope you guys enjoyed this chat. If you did, let me know in the comments. Drop some love. Let us know you're out there. And we will catch you all next time. So from me and Ryan, we will catch you all on the flip side. All right? See you guys.